if you happen to think that you're the master of piloting through time, well, then I have the game for you. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I do the review of Kobayashi Maru for the Atari Jaguar CD.
Second Opinion Games.
Okay, so here's my copy of Kobayashi Maru. I really like this cover art, and as you can see, it looks nice front and back, and even has some graphics on the inside. Looks pretty good. Now, this game is super expensive nowadays, so you're probably not going to be able to track it down. However, if you go to RetroworksGaming over at Etsy, there is a couple of copies made available just there, so make sure you check that out and check the description and links below. Okay, thanks. Bye. So, the Kobayashi Maru is the final test you must take before becoming a starship captain for the Federation. In the Star Trek universe, that is. In our universe, it's a game made by Reboot for the Atari Jaguar. And it's a blatant carbon copy of Time Pilot, but without many of the features that made that game truly great. Now, I'm not saying this game's bad. Oh, heck no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it plays slightly different. For one, I was a master. And I mean master of Time Pilot in the arcades, where I could play for over a half hour on a single quarter. And I knew that game up and down to the point where I could manage the amount of sprites on screen to use the slowdown to my advantage, especially when heat-seeking missiles are fired at me. And in this game, well, don't expect any of those heat-seeking missiles because, well, they just didn't feel like coding any. And on the sad fact of things that they just didn't feel like coding, music is on the list. Now, there is music on the main screen where it also shows different high scores and whatnot like that. However, in-game music, well, there just isn't any. And the game plays with just using your left and right on your controller and the B button, which you could hold down for firing. Well, thank God they didn't make me press the B button again and again and again, because that would have been absolutely ridiculous, and we all know Jaguar controllers didn't come with turbo buttons, at least not controllers that weren't heavily customized. Speaking of heavily customized controllers, it also offers full Rotary Control. So, if you happen to have one of those custom controllers, well, enjoy the arcade feel of using that. But, you know what, the regular standard controller just works totally fine. And those are all the buttons, left, right, and B. And the only buttons, because it doesn't even have a pause feature, which is pretty much just sad. So in the gameplay department, you just shoot down tons and tons of ships. I recommend sort of piloting southeast for the majority of the time. Now, you could fire up north, but then you'll hit these balloon guys, which will drop, and you'll probably end up missing them more than you catch them. Where are they important? Well, every 20,000 points or so, you get an extra life. So if you shoot them down, you will get 1,000 points if you collect them. And if you get 2,000. And that continues all the way up to 5,000 points, where it caps out at. So you could gain a lot of points and pick up a couple extra lives along the way. Also, every single level that you play, the ships that you shoot down go up 100 points in value. So on level 1, they're 100 points. On level 11, they're 1,100 points. And if you shoot down enough of these ships, then a boss ship will appear. And where this is rather interesting is the fact that all of your enemy ships, the smaller ones, stop firing at you when the boss ship appears. So you only have shots coming from one direction. Now, you still have to dodge the enemy ships, but they're not going to really be a problem as they can't shoot back at you. So knowing that, your best way of taking down the boss ship is by circling around behind him and just unloading. Because also, he doesn't start firing back at you until a decent-sized portion is on the screen, which means you could kind of do a nice sneak attack and take him down really fast. Now, the game itself is only about 4 levels long, and then it just repeats on a loop and gets increasingly difficult with every single loot completed, at least for a few couple times, and then it basically just feels like the same, shoving tons of enemies at you, and you mercilessly shoot them down, killing them to get the high score. And it's, again, one of those high-score experience games. Now there is some little details in here in the game, like the fact that the boss ships actually show a little bit of a damage if you can actually see them on your screen, the more bullets you fire into them. Of course, level 1 through 4, you really won't see that damage at all. You'll probably have to make it your second or third run before you really even notice this fact. Also, the colors are very crisp throughout the entire game. I really like the explosion sounds of the ships, even if they are somewhat generic. And when you save the balloon falling down people, well, it makes a really cool yes sound. Also, I'm pretty sure the reboot team worked on another game, Superfly DX, because this seems like the same yellow following guy from that video game. So it's nice to see a returning character. Because I made the Time Pilot reference, first I want to throw out some things that this game has that Time Pilot doesn't, or vice versa. In Time Pilot, your opponent planes, they fly in a certain pattern, and also sometimes they could have groups of them together, which you could shoot down for extra bonus points. That just doesn't happen in this game. And also no heat-seeking missiles, and the fact that it does change opponents every single level, and the bosses are very different every single level, at least 4 different bosses that are beautifully hand-drawn, by the way, and look absolutely gorgeous on the screen, but that's really it. There's no heat-seeking missiles or cool helicopters trying to shoot you down. They're just generic either airplanes or random UFOs. Now the Kobayashi Maru is supposed to be a winless scenario that teaches you humility, but in my case, I just kept on winning and winning and winning. And because of the point system giving you more and more points for every round you complete, well, I started packing on extra lives really, really fast. Also, because I was drinking a whole lot of Mountain Dew while doing this review, I really need to pee. And there's no pause button whatsoever. So eventually, I just decided to go out on my own terms. This means that I didn't learn any humility when playing this game, and I feel comfortable that I could have eventually played to the point where I would have gotten an extra life for every single ship that I downed, because I think I pretty much mastered this game. Now, in other versions of the game, you can put in your initials for your high score. However, this one just doesn't let you do that. Now, I know there is a Kobayashi Maru final, which I just could not get my hands on, so I had to turn to my friend at RetroworksGaming, which I already talked about. So definitely turn to him and pick up this game, because it is simply, absolutely, really a must-have for your Atari Jaguar CD. But that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and also leave tons and tons of comments because I cannot wait to hear from you. I have almost no friends, so I really, really want someone to talk to. That's the whole purpose of this channel, is so I have someone to freaking talk to. So leave me those comments. Thanks again to RetroworksGaming for supplying me with this game, because they're just terrific. And the game normally sells for like $200 on eBay, and I don't think anyone should have to pay that for a Jaguar game. Also, show the reboot team tons and tons of love, and go to Atari Age and make sure you pick up Rebooteroids, which is another one of their super great games for the Atari Jaguar. And until later, I'll see you again, guys.